everyone, good morning. Welcome to Daily Reflections. It's episode 49. This is my second last show for this season of Daily Reflections. I've had a great run and I hope you've enjoyed listening to my guests. They are part of some of the amazing networks that I am, fortunate to be part of. And I thought, why not share them with you? Their perspectives, their thoughts, their opinions, and also, they being wonderful people, so that you could get to know who these people are. I hope you're staying safe, staying healthy at home. It's a little difficult as we continue through the weeks. We are now in 4.0 lockdown mode. It's really hard. It's getting to a lot of people who have been strong all this while. And when you see a lot of people go out and enjoy themselves, you want to be there too. But it's very important that you stay at home. This virus is deadly, and there's not enough healthcare. It's as simple as that. So you may as well stay at home and not regret it later. Anyway, today with me, I have a special guest, Anu Chaudhary. She is the founder and CEO of SustainPlus. Good morning, Anu. How are you?
Good morning, Elsa. I'm very well. How about you?
I'm very well, thank you. Anu, where are you logging in from?
I'm in Pune, Elsa.
Great. So tell us something. You've been a sustainability and climate change expert for a long time, much before it became fashionable.
Yes.
How do you see this phase, COVID-19, where the earth, we've taken a pause and given the earth the opportunity to rejuvenate herself?
Yeah. So, well, it was not a conscious effort from our end to give this opportunity to the earth. But I think the one good thing that has come out of this whole disaster is that mankind has perhaps realized that we need to thrive with nature. We cannot thrive without nature, and nature, on the other hand, can thrive without us. Can in fact do extremely well without us. And that, I think, is the message that really needs to get registered with everyone now, because so far we were living in denial, most of us. We did not want to acknowledge that it was a man-made problem, that whatever damage was happening to the environment, whatever deterioration was happening, was man-made. But now when we see the earth rejuvenating in just a few weeks, you obviously know what factor is causing that. So of course, I think that's the one big realization that the world has had recently.
I wanted to ask you about starting on this journey on climate action very early on. What drove you to that? What attracted you? And have you seen changes over the years, like in terms of acceptance, in terms of creating a movement as well, with people as well as with leaders?
I would say I've been around for so long, almost 19 years now, that I saw it moving from almost nothing to something which is considered as the biggest factor for the largest of investments, for the largest of companies to consider while they are building their business strategies. So we've come a long way, and sustainability, environment, and social factors as such have evolved over these 19 years. When I had started out, well, the interest that was built during my years of graduation and post graduation, it just got reinforced when I started hearing about what's happening globally. So my first instance when I first encountered the biggest discussions on sustainability was when the Kyoto Protocol was signed in the year 2000. And and that's when I started reading more about it. Climate action seemed to be something very new being introduced by the policymakers and by the regulators across the globe, but also something which was hardly understood by anyone. So yeah, well, I started reading more, built my interest in this. Then I started working mostly on projects overseas, because in India there wasn't really much happening at that time. Although yeah, so my first job was in the US, where I was working with the Ford Motor Company, helping them on their water issues. And it just kept getting more and more interesting for me to be in this field. I loved it, absolutely. And I loved seeing the outcome of whatever little we were doing, because we were also learning along the way. So the one great thing about my journey in the last 19 years is there hasn't been a single day when I haven't learned something. It's because it's constantly evolving, and it's so dynamic. One can never claim to be an expert, so to say. You always have to keep upgrading yourself. There are new technologies coming in. There's so much to do. I mean, it's just never enough. And sustainability, I think, unlike what many people might think, is not about environment alone. It's about your social responsibility. It's about labor practices. It's about employee engagement, employee welfare. So basically everything around you which you may impact, or which may in turn impact you, is what sustainability is. And that's what makes it so interesting, I guess, for me.
I'm quickly trying to keep up with your words. You know, this sustainability is a very heavy duty term. And like you said, it's more than just environment. A lot of people don't understand this jargon. Can you share, like, at an individual level, what does sustainable lifestyles mean to people? Because often we use these words, but we don't really know what they mean. And for example, some of it is fashionable. I'm also starting a podcast series, and my first guest, who I recorded, she talks about plastic paper cups, for example. Paper cups, we think that we are being sustainable when we use paper cups, but they have a lining of plastic within, inside of it, and that's harmful to the environment. So whilst we think we are being sustainable, we could also be doing harm. So you know what what does it mean at the individual level? Can you just share some simple strategies that people can use or adopt?
So one thing I'd like to start with is uh, sustainability seems to be such a heavy term, especially for people outside of this domain, that we tend to think that this is something that the governments need to take care of, or large companies need to take care of, and there isn't really much that I can do as an individual, which is so wrong. Because uh, I mean, you look at an individual, a family, you look at a community, or your own housing society. You won't even imagine how many ways there are to be sustainable, in your own lifestyle, in your own homes. So, taking the example of a paper cup, we all know that paper comes from trees, right? You have to cut down trees to get paper. And I mean, when people get to see the amount of damage you're doing just for that little, 50 ml of water that you're drinking in that paper cup, and the footprint that it has, that would be shocking, for most individuals, because we don't even think on those lines. Now, being in your own home, there are so many things you can do. I mean, and it's just endless. That, of course, we can start with switching off the lights when you don't need them, not using too much water, just use as much as you need, recycling. So how many people in their homes have RO installed? And do you know RO uses 3 to 4 times more water than you actually get for drinking? So 3 to 4 times of that water is actually going down the drain because of that purification process. So, and there are so many things you can do. You can use that for washing utensils. You can use that. It's because it's not really, dirty water or contaminated water. It's just, much higher in mineral concentration as compared to your drinking water. So, and you can use that for your gardening. for sweeping and stuff, for your house cleaning. Now, then gardening, coming back to gardening now. So there are so many things we can do, even in the smallest of apartments. I've seen my friends growing vegetables. They have organic vegetables growing in their own houses, and they have oxygen, and of course they're adding to the green, in the environment. And then, when you're traveling, you could just take a steel or a glass bottle with you. If that is too much, you could just carry a steel straw with you, or a glass with you. So you don't have to take disposable containers outside. So yeah, I could go on and on, but I'm sure that's not what we want to spend the entire hour on. But I would be super happy to talk to anyone about this, and we could write a book on this. There's so much an individual can do, and imagine as a family how much difference you can make. Then water harvesting, that's what water harvesting and biocomposting, these are the two things I definitely want to talk about. So these are considered as two very complex processes, which they are certainly not. There are now very simple technologies available, very handy equipment available, which you can install in your own houses, and you can easily do water harvesting. You can convert your biodegradable waste into compost and use it within your society, within your homes, for gardening. So and these are both very doable. I don't know why we don't promote this more. And when we can have electricians and plumbers and all of these skilled people available, why don't we have someone who can also come and just install a water harvesting plant in your house? So we need to train people. That would of course generate employability. We would upskill people, and we would be of course much more resource efficient in our own houses. Too much
You bring
or
up
too fast?
You bring up a good point about why don't we hire people to help us with these processes? Just like we would, employ someone to come and cook or clean our homes. Maybe we can have somebody come and, help us with our home gardens, if that's not something that we are, good at or don't know how to begin with. Because for gardening may not be for everyone. You might not have a green thumb, or you just might not know how to grow plants, for example. So I do know of somebody in Calcutta, for example, who does have this service that she's providing, but she's struggling to get it up and running because people don't think it's necessary to pay a Mali to come to your little home veranda to help you grow vegetables and fruits. But I do feel that maybe this is the moment. COVID-19 is a moment where we are all reflecting. We are rethinking about the source of our food, trying to get connected directly to farmers. And so some of those barriers that you express, like why is it so difficult to install these things or make those behavior changes where we start living sustainable lifestyles, now this may be a catalyst for it to be implemented within one's home. And what better than to start off in your own home and then take it out to your organization, your society, your community, etc. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. So, and when a normal citizen, a general citizen starts realizing this, leadership will also start taking note of it. Because if, like, say, for example, you are living a clean lifestyle, you're doing everything you can within your individual capacity to generate minimum waste, to reduce your carbon footprint, to reduce your water footprint. Now, when you go out and when you go out shopping, if you are given a choice of choosing between a sustainably sourced product, or something which cannot claim to be sustainably sourced, you would want to naturally pick up the one which is sustainable. And that is where the driver is. So once people start becoming more and more aware, the impact can be exponential, because then it would go on to the consumers, it would go on to the people who are producing these sustainable products, they are manufacturing. So you will impact the industry, you will impact the government in the end, because the leadership will start taking note that people want this and they better do something about it. Otherwise, of course, now I think now the generation is very, very vocal about what they like and what they don't like, and they can really make a huge difference. So that's how it works as a catalyst for the entire nation and for the world, actually. And the thing is that there has been a lot of lip service by the leadership across the globe. So they've been talking at the UN forums, they've been talking at international World Economic Forum and this forum and that forum, but how much of it can you really see happening on the ground? How much of it is translating into real outcomes? Now that will happen once you and I become aware of what is it that we should be looking for? What is the difference you should be seeing on the ground? So once you are aware of it, you will start asking about it. So I think a lot of countries are also talking about green recovery post-COVID. Now, of course, a great thought. I completely endorse it, but I also hope that it doesn't just lead to greenwashing. In the end, something real has to happen, and which means that it's not just your large companies. It should be. So, I'd like to add here that MSMEs in India, they contribute 70% to the economy in India. Okay, 70%. Now, imagine the kind of impact they can make. But when you go and speak with a small manufacturer, he either doesn't know about the sustainable practices, or they think that it's going to be too expensive for them, that it's not cost effective, or they think that that's not my job, that's a government's job, or some large corporate's job, but not me. This is just doesn't work for me. So who's going to make that difference? It's you and I. So once we start talking to them, once we start demanding sustainable practices, they will have to provide. And this notion, we need to remove this notion that it's not going to be cost effective. In fact, we've worked with companies where we have shown how an investment of 1 rupee can lead to a saving of 10 rupees within a year. We've shown that kind of results. So it's just about awareness, I think. That's what it is.
So you're the founder of SustainPlus. Tell us, what does SustainPlus do?
SustainPlus has two arms. So our consulting and advisory vertical, we work with corporates to help them implement sustainable practices. We build their sustainability strategies, their roadmaps. We do a gap assessment for them to find out where they have the maximum impact. So it's both ways. We work to find out where they have a negative impact or a higher footprint in terms of carbon or water or waste or energy and several other elements of sustainability. Once we do that, we tell them, how they could reduce this impact, and also in turn how that could be beneficial for them. For example, they could become more resource efficient after, by doing that. Also, there's this notion again that being sustainable means I am doing a service to the environment or to the society. That's actually not true, because while you are having an impact on environment and society, the other way around can also happen, which means that if the environment is negatively impacted, that could impact your business, that could impact your finances. Like, for example, let's take the case of climate change. Now we see a steady rise in global temperatures, which is leading to natural disasters. So frequent natural disasters, nobody can deny that anymore, and it's around the globe. So does that not impact your business? So if there is a flood, or there is a tsunami, or there is drought in a certain geography, in a certain location, that will impact your business if you are located there, or if you're sourcing your supplies from there. So when we are doing our consulting and advisory, on sustainability, we also see what could be the impact of climate change or other environmental factors on the business. Like if there is a new regulation to reduce your water footprint, then how would you do that overnight if it was implemented from tomorrow? So it's better to be prepared for any such new legislations coming in. So that's what we do. Through our non-profit arm, we mainly work in CSR project implementation. We've been working on a lot of women health and hygiene projects, environmental projects, water safety, water balance, water usage reduction, then waste management. The entire last year we did some very interesting waste management projects, plastic take back programs. So yeah, a mix of both strategy at the board level as well as implementation on the ground level is what we are looking at.
I've often wondered, whether to create a movement, you need to invest in educating the leaders and drive a top-down approach, but also, have a bottom-up approach. So, for example, when you said we as consumers can demand, how can we demand when we are not educated on this topic? And not everybody is totally aware. Right now, take COVID-19, for example. We are teaching people how to wash their hands. That was something that everybody should know, right? But it apparently is that they don't know how to wash their hands, and they don't know that you have to wash them frequently. So, and I work on the issue of sexual violence prevention, and we also believe that, while some things are intuitive, people just don't know about it. They don't know that what they are doing is inappropriate behavior. So when you're talking about this educated consumer approach, it actually means that we need to invest in education. We need to invest in mass scale awareness, and also make it easy for the consumers to differentiate these products, like maybe on the packaging. So if you look at the calorie count, for example, of a food product, you now know how many calories you're going to consume. Are there labels that one can look out for if they are there, to say what is the footprint of that product, or somebody has yet to come up with a label like that? Do you know of anything like that? One moment, I put you on mute because we are getting some kind of feedback.
Is it okay now? Elsa, you gave a great example of calorie count on food products. Now, that was something that was unheard of 10 years back, right? Now, only when the consumers started asking, when the market felt that, consumers are becoming more and more aware and they need to know this, did the companies start coming up with these labels. Now, the same thing is true for sustainability labels as well. There are quite a few labels available out there. But since the awareness right now is low, probably there isn't so much value seen in these labels, or companies are not going for them because they feel that it's unnecessary, since consumers are not really making their choices based on this. Now, step one here would be to, of course, have more and more awareness sessions for consumers, for generally for people to understand what it means for them. It's not just about environment, as I keep saying. It's about yourself. It's about your own sustainability. So once you're aware, you are less likely to make a bad choice, of course. Now, another significant change which is coming in is our kids, our 7-8-year-old kids, are talking about sustainability. So I was invited in my daughter's school on World Environment Day to talk about sustainable products, about sustainable lifestyles, environment, and stuff like that. And these were all kids from between 10 to 15 years of age, which means that they do understand this now. We did not hear about it when we were in school, unfortunately. So that means some change is happening already. So this generation which is growing up now will be certainly much more aware, and they will demand this. but also even now, a large part of the population knows that something like this exists, that a cleaner product as opposed to a conventional product exists in the market. They might still think that it is much more expensive or out of, it is inaccessible. But think about organic products, for example. When it started out, say 5-7 years back, organic products used to cost 4 times a normal product, and it obviously was out of reach for most of the population. But now it's probably say 5 to 10% more costlier than a regular product, or not even that much. So of course, then it becomes accessible. So the more we propagate this, the more awareness we spread, the more the companies would start thinking about this and come up with, because they have to cater to the demand of the consumer, and this will certainly come up, as with organic products and as with low calorie food products.
Children are the future, and we've seen that before COVID-19, it was the children who were driving the climate change, climate action movement through Fridays for Future. Greta Thunberg was the face of the movement, along with several young people. So yeah, thank you for educating the young people, and I hope they will be better informed than us and drive the change through their parents. And we've seen that happen in many other different movements, especially firecrackers, etc. Even plastics, the use of plastics, where children are questioning that. I wanted to ask you about yourself. How are you taking care of yourself during this time, and when everybody is locked down and it's hard to stay at home? Are you enjoying it? Was it easy for you to move your company work to work from home, etc.?
Uh, I think post COVID, it started with anxiety for the initial few days, followed by acceptance, and now I would say even looking forward to this new normal. So work-wise, it wasn't that much of a challenge for us, although we used to have, go to office regularly and, work together as a team in the office from, on a regular day. We had to shift home. So since last 2 months, all of us have been working from home, and we've gotten used to online meetings. We've learned how to use these new apps now, and things are much more doable now, and it even seems much more practical than being in the same room now. So yeah, that way it hasn't been so much of a challenge. But of course, not having house help means that you may have to take meetings while mopping and while cooking, which yeah, I mean, which is again something that we have to accept, and I think that again is not going to change for some time, still for maybe a couple of months more. But I'm feeling good today that I got up and I got dressed and put kajal today after 2 months maybe. So that's how it is. I mean, I think that's what needs to change. We need to start our work day, thinking that we are starting a work day, not really being in our pajamas all day and working. So yeah, I'm getting into the routine now, I guess. I do miss going out, of course. But also, the one good thing that has happened perhaps during these times is, while you're in a meeting or while you're busy working, my 9-year-old daughter comes and gives me a hug, sits with me for some time. So earlier we didn't get so much time together. Now even if we are working, we're busy, at least she's around. It feels so much better. And she's also started getting used to it. So earlier she would feel odd that both me and my husband, we are in meetings all day. But now she's gotten used to it, and she herself was in online classes until yesterday, 4 hours a day. So, and three of us would be occupying 3 rooms and in our respective meetings. It's been going fine, I guess. Yeah, it's not as bad as I initially thought it to be.
As a woman entrepreneur, was it difficult to start your own business? How easy or difficult it was to start in a niche area of sustainability and climate action?
Um, well, at the cost of modesty, I would have to say that to be a woman entrepreneur and to be a woman entrepreneur in sustainability, you really need to have a lot of courage, especially in India. So I felt that um, I think that one conviction that I had was that my work has to make a difference. Well, unfortunately, when I started out in sustainability, there were not many women in this domain at all. So even now, most women that you see in sustainability are only managing CSR, but not sustainability so much. So there are very few in sustainability, which means that they don't have, women are not represented enough at the board level or at the CXO level. And so when go and meet some CXOs, they would either ask me, do I have a partner, do I have a co-founder, hoping that there is some male involved in this. So when I started out, but it's not all bad at all. It's So I've had some challenging experiences when I started out. It takes, I would say, a lot more effort for a woman to prove that she can do as good or maybe even better job than her male counterpart. But also there have been some really good people I have come across, all men, who have been very encouraging, who have even now turned into mentors for me because there was so much to learn from them. So it's been a mixed experience, but I wouldn't trade it for anything else. It has been such an interesting growth curve for me. I've learned so much over the last 3 years, and I guess the more work you do, that itself speaks for itself. So whether you are, then it doesn't matter what gender you are, as long as you're doing good work and you're doing it sincerely. So then people start looking beyond you being a woman or being a certain gender.
Post COVID, what are the trends that you think are going to emerge? Do you think there'll be a greater interest in sustainability? I personally think it's going to be mental health, anything to do with people to people connection, as well as, everything sustainable, organic farming, organic food, wellness, all these things that actually bring us back to basics, but have such a big impact on our total well being, physical, emotional, and mental. I would love to hear your thoughts on how the post COVID world is going to look like.
So, as you rightly said, Elsa, post COVID, the focus is going to be more on wellness, is going to be more uh, on growing together. The interlinkages between us, between me as an individual and other people around me, linkages between me as a company, and other uh, companies around me and within the community, within this sector, everything will start making more sense. So you cannot be selfish, you cannot be greedy anymore. So I think the last few years, since industrialization, everyone focused too much on profits, on business alone, and they forgot that they cannot grow alone. If they leave everyone else behind. So now, of course, profit would be a focus. In fact, for the next 1 or 2 years, it may even be survival. Forget about profits, because a lot of companies have been severely impacted because of COVID. But now, one thing is very clear: biodiversity is going to be huge post COVID, because people have realized how badly it can impact us. So far, biodiversity was just a very, very cosmetic element, in sustainability. Most companies did not pay any attention to it. Then, taking care of your supply chain, that is going to be huge. So sustainable supply chains, procuring locally, and ideally, like the government's initiative, being vocal for local, because that, of course, is going to promote indigenous industries. But also, we must not forget that our own systems, our conventional systems, were anyway sustainable. So I think India has the best history of sustainable culture, and that is going to come back. I'm not just hoping for that. I'm actually sure that that is going to happen. What happened was, over the last 20, 30 years, it became fashionable to import marble from Italy, or something from some part of the globe, spending so much on procuring it, paying 10 times the price, because it was fashionable. Now, when we are talking about manufacturing locally, about procuring local products, you compare these imported products with local products, they are anyway much greener. They have much less footprint, of course, because they are not procured from 3,000 to 50,000 miles away. So once this local comes in, sustainability will come in for sure. And secondly, I also feel that, and in fact, it has been proven recently that the businesses which had ESG element into them, which had a higher ESG performance, did much better during COVID. They were much less impacted, which means that ESG investors fared much better than conventional investors. And now this is, and it's a proven fact. So numbers are there to prove this, which means ESG. Sorry, I should not be using such abbreviations without explaining. So ESG means environmental, social, and governance elements of a company. So this improves the ESG rating. So if you are sustainable, your ESG rating goes higher. And there are several parameters to measure that. And now investments which were made looking at the ESG performance of a company have fared much better than a regular company. That's what I meant to say.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that information with us. I do believe that as we go along, people are going to, really focus on sustainability because they've realized during COVID-19 how much better our life can be. And it's taken so long for climate change activists, really speaking from the rooftops, trying to, educate us, bang our heads against the walls. And the earth decided to pause, and we can see, in just a few weeks, the air quality has improved. The rivers have cleaned themselves. The wild animals are thriving. The birds are thriving. Everything seems to be thriving. And all we had to do was, stay at home. So one of my guests right early on Daily Reflections, Sutapa Sanyal, she is an ex-police officer. She actually suggested that why don't we have a 5-day working week? And then on the Saturday, we just do all our chores outside, buy whatever, go to the mall, go to the park. And on Sunday, stay at home and let the earth, instead of calling it Sunday, call it Earth Day. And let the earth and all the other creatures thrive during that day. I thought it was a beautiful idea, and I thought that maybe we should implement something as radical as that. It might help. And it would also give us pause because we are always rushing from one thing to another. Having said that, what are you looking forward to once we can get out of our homes and the travel restrictions are lifted? Again, I have you on mute. Yeah.
Personally, I'm of course looking forward to go and meet my friends, and my family. My family is in Delhi, and I don't know when will I get a chance to fly to Delhi and meet them, and of course my friends. But also, in general, I just hope that we become more respectful of everyone around us. What's happening with the labor section right now. People who are forced to go back to their villages because they have no work, no food, no shelter here, is really, really heart-wrenching and very shameful for us, because these are the people who built our homes, our lavish homes, where we are sitting comfortably right now. And these poor people have no support. And I think once we open up, once we start our regular operations, regular business again, we have to make it more inclusive. I mean, these are our fellow citizens, and we are calling them migrants first of all. That itself is demeaning. So I might be more of a migrant in that sense, because I was born and brought up in Delhi, and now I'm in Maharashtra, whereas these poor laborers, they would just be from some village in Maharashtra. So yeah, so that's, I think, very, very unfair on our part to just call them migrants and do something, and something little for them, and think that that's enough. uh, that's certainly not how it should be. We have to change our labor practices. So I'm going to be more vocal about it. I'm going to work more towards it. Right now, through our nonprofit, we are trying to help as much as we can. There are companies who have partnered with us, and we have been giving ration, or whatever basic essentials to these people. So Shopper Stop came forward, iResearch, Giving for Good Foundation, everybody came forward, and they've been doing as much as possible. But we need more people to come together, join forces, and make a policy change here, not just something that is being done as philanthropy. We need a policy structure for these people. Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, Anu, for sharing your morning with us. I've learned a lot on sustainability, climate action, and all the simple ways that we can make a lifestyle change. So, thank you once again. Have a wonderful Saturday and a lovely weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you so much, Elsa. It has been really lovely. Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for joining in. Do join in tomorrow at 10 o'clock. It's my last episode. Bye.
Bye bye.